I'm now outside of San Andreas. This is a tiny island just outside. You see San Andreas in the background here, and this was the dream destination of a friend of mine. Andreas never made it to San Andreas, and still today we don't know what happened after we said see you later in Jamaica. I also have other friends from Estonia, from my time in search and rescue. I especially like their slogan for the second chance. Andreas deserved the second chance he never got after deploying his 2 APIRB. I tried to not make it too nerdy, but well, you know me, I throw in some graphics and also some explanations here and there. So I'm not trying to solve this case because I'm not the right person to do that, but there's a lot of things that point in some directions and I'm gonna walk you through it. In the previous episode I shared some hints of a story about a solo sailing friend named Andreas that disappeared en route to San Andreas. I don't like to make sensational or drama-like videos, unless I feel it could have some learning points or valuable information contributing to making sailing safer in one way or another. So, but now I have not more than 70 nautical miles left to San Andreas. And it's a little bit, what should I say, a little bit emotional part of this leg, because just 150 nautical miles north of here, a very good friend of mine disappeared in 2019. We set sail the same day from Jamaica, and he was actually heading towards San Andres, and I pointed towards Cartagena in Colombia. And that was the last thing I heard from Andreas. When I arrived at Cartagena, I knew something was wrong, and also I called the Coast Guard and called the Coast Guard in Jamaica. That was his last port. And still today, almost 3 years later, we don't know what happened. I tried very hard to convince Andreas to sail with me to Colombia, and that we either could sail from there to San Andreas together or could join some other boats in a convoy before going to Panama. Even the police in Jamaica remember my attempt talking Andreas into not sailing directly to San Andreas alone.
But you told me when he said he was going to Kingston, to Port Royal, and you tried to convince him so that you people could sail together.
When I got the message Andreas was missing and got his last known position, I really struggled to understand it. We had discussed this route quite a lot, also with other sailors, and I was sure he was going to sail from Kingston, as this was the last thing he said before see you later, and the route we discussed earlier was far outside this region. That's why it's such a mystery how he ended up in distress in these waters. Did he encounter some problems before ending there, or was it a miscalculation of the powerful waves and currents? Because a common mistake among solo sailors is sleeping for too long at time and getting out of course. Solo sailors are at higher risk, as we can't be 100% lookout at all time. So my first reaction was maybe Andreas was experiencing some level of fatigue, that also common but not much exposed. As I tried to visualize in this example, sleeping for 6 hours could send you 12 miles out of course. Another common mistake among sailors in general is having zoomed out the map, not realizing there could be some details worth knowing on a closer level. However, looking at the map and his emergency positions, these theories could be excluded pretty fast. My theory is still not as far-fetched you might believe. Our third solo sailor aimed for Cartagena as I did, but his sleeping pattern was unbelievable. He told me he just set sails and went below sleeping through the entire night. Interesting fact, he never made it to Cartagena, but was lucky to be alive, ending up in San Blas due to the reality of my previous example. More or less in the same time frame, another solo sailor disappeared outside the north point of Colombia. So out of 4 solo sailors crossing the Caribbean at this time, 2 disappeared. One was lucky, only ending up another place some 100 miles away. And only one of us managed to reach our planned destinations. Pretty scary statistics if you ask me. Especially knowing the fact that the lucky sailor just as well could been on the same sad list of missing sailors, just as Andreas and Rocco, in almost the same part of the Caribbean at almost the same time. As the risk of collisions at sea also is increased being solo, I was wondering if this could be the case. However, in Andreas' case, no signs of this was ever found. Being a solo or shorthand sailor, sleeping pattern and understanding the challenge is important for our own safety. And please let me explain very short some key points that's fundaments in my choices of sleeping pattern. As I mentioned earlier, every solo sailor is breaking the rules of good seamanship, as the fact we can't always keep a sharp lookout. Nothing beats what your eyes tells you, even though the distance at its best is not more than 3 to 5 nautical miles. That's why an AIS transponder and receiver is important tools to help us. Still, the distance varies in general between 15 to 20 nautical miles, sometimes even down to only a few miles. I have often on this channel referred to my radar as my eyes, as it sees things beyond my visual horizon and often before my AIS. Depending on lots of factors, you should be able to pick up objects 15 to 20 miles away. This is important information to me, validating if I can go back to sleep for another 20 minutes or not. My most important reason for always trying to avoid busy shipping lanes, or at least plan my sleeping pattern to be awake, is best explained like this. Imagine you sail 6 knots and don't pay attention. Far beyond your visual horizon, a ship is coming 12 knots against you. In less than 30 minutes, we have a dangerous situation. Even though 15 minutes ago, you could see absolutely nothing on the horizon. Andreas shared my opinions in lots of these key points here. His boat was not only in very good shape, Andreas also had his safety gear sorted out very good as well. So it feels unlogical and unfair he just disappeared. Unfortunately, Andreas did not have radar on his boat, and if this would change anything or not, we will never know. But if I can give a friendly advice, don't go offshore without it. I will come back to this. What we do know is his emergency signals was activated in this region, not only 1 but 2. Something that makes this point in direction of piracy is the fact it's a well-known place for brutal piracy attacks.
Now and then, this might be about the 5th, 6th one. The past 4 or 5 years I'm hearing about a whole lot of piracy.
But let's dig a bit deeper into the facts we have and what we know. Andreas had 2 emergency beacons activated with some distance between, and we have his position and also timestamps. I'm not gonna bore you with nerdy mathematics, but with a scientific calculator and some formulas, it's doable to calculate the bearing, time and speed between his 2 activated beacons. Therefore, it's easy to assume that his boat or his second beacon traveled 5.5 nautical miles the next 48 minutes before it was activated. With this simple formula, we can calculate the speed between the beacons to average 6.87 knots over the distance of 5.5 nautical miles. Given the fact his boat normally averaged 5 knots, having between 1.5 and 2 knots currents, his 6.8 knots over ground somehow makes sense. However, going full throttle at 6.8 knots northeast after deploying the first emergency beacon raises several questions. And why was he even in this region at all? Some reports claims it was a storm in this region, which normally means no pirates as the weather then is too bad. I can't say what it was at his location at this point, as I was more than 500 nautical miles away. Being an experienced sailor with a strong and good boat, this could indicate Andreas knew what he was doing, and took a calculated risk, knowing pirates normally don't operate in bad weather. Another interesting fact is the ocean currents as his location. And if he was unable to maneuver because of some serious problems, it makes absolutely no sense the speed he had northeast. If I was looking for him at this point, I would assume his course would be north of the first emergency and not 5.5 miles northeast. To me, this looks like Andreas did a strategic smart move, changing his course to northeast in the middle of the night. Something or someone scared him enough to deploy his first beacon manually. I believe we can conclude that Andreas most likely chose to sail this route, and instead of departing from Kingston, he departed from the southwest part of Jamaica. From my point of view, and with the limited information I have, there was no technical emergency reasons making Andreas activate his first beacon, because he had a certified and updated life raft. Also, he knew how it works. We also know his boat most likely was moving at full throttle for close to an hour, meaning he had plenty of time to deploy his life raft if this was necessary. Therefore, my guessing, and it's only based on the information I have, something or someone scared Andreas enough to change his course northeast, most likely running for his life. We can only speculate in what happened and why he deployed his second beacon after 48 minutes going full throttle 5.5 nautical miles northeast. I want to show you how effective emergency beacons are, and also very shallow explain the capacities, resources like a tanker ship can be, arriving only few hours later. In 4 hours the first beacon was found after it was activated. Imagine if Andreas was then sitting in his life raft. Sitting in a life raft, your odds are pretty good of being seen, even from a pleasure boat if not too far away. However, from the bridge of a commercial ship, their distance to their horizon is significantly longer. And let's say the bridge is 25 meters above sea level, their distance to their horizon could be as much as 10 nautical miles. Depending on the sea state, a commercial radar also reaches more than twice as long as a pleasure boat radar, with higher accuracy as well. So let's put this knowledge into the map and time frame. The circles represents average max speed on Andreas' boat, so it's 6 nautical miles per hour, that's also per circle. Meaning when the tanker ship Magnesium was on site, they had already pretty good capacity to scan this area. And knowing the capacity on Andreas' boat, it would most likely still be in the green zone and unlikely outside the 30 miles mark, if he was continuing at full throttle. Also, the US Coast Guard contributed in searching for Andreas, and all they found was one of the emergency beacons and one life jacket, leaving us with more questions than answers. In 2019 there was lots of piracy in the Caribbean, different strategies and level of aggression. And before reaching Jamaica, I encountered attempt outside of Haiti and got helicopter support from the US Coast Guard. This was at night, but my radar gave me a heads up. No visual navigation lights or any AIS signal, even being pretty close. Without the radar, they might been able to surprise me. As you can see, I had a compass rose on my navigation, so I could give the bearing from my observation in my communication with the Coast Guard. In these waters, they used to shoot flares pretending to be in distress, and if you came to assist, they would attack you. I knew about this strategy in these waters, hence the fact I contacted the US Coast Guard asking for advice and possible assistance. The reasons I want to talk about this unpleasant stuff is to create awareness and the importance of doing research before you go. As a last example, my knowledge about piracy attacks against sailors in Panama saved me from bad experience there. Anchoring anywhere in the Colón district came at a high risk. And at Nombre de Dios, you were 100% guaranteed being gunpoint robbed or even worse after sunset. Piracy attack is never to be blamed the captain or his crew. It's the nations accepting this that is to blame. That's why it's important to not only share this information among sailors, as I did and also do now. Also exposing nations housing pirates hurts the tourism, and hopefully it forces some actions from governments, like it did in Panama after it even reached the front pages globally in the mainstream media.
Pescadores vigilantes, marinas vigilantes, y anótense en este número porque a veces por falta de comunicación, por un numerito, pasan algunos incidentes. 108, por favor.
So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, even though it was quite a difference from what I normally post on this channel. But I still thought it was an important message to get out there, and as I said also in the beginning, I hope we can learn something from it, at least to share some awareness of the challenges we can face as sailors. So I would like to bring a toast for Andreas and all the other missing sailors out there, and cheers. I want to thank the crew on Magnesium being the first resource on site for Andreas. Also the US Coast Guard for assisting in search and rescue mission, and for even assisting me en route to Jamaica 2 months earlier. Also sending my warmest respect and thoughts to family and friends of all missing sailors, and especially to Andreas' family in Estonia. Next episode will be more normal, happy and positive style.